It was a cold autumn morning when David sat on the old wooden bench for the first time in months. The park was quiet, covered in golden leaves, the air filled with the smell of rain. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped, his eyes distant. Life hadn't gone the way he planned. Just a year ago, David had a stable job, a small apartment, and dreams of starting his own business. But when the company downsized, he was among the first to go. He told himself he'd bounce back quickly, but months turned into a year. Rejections piled up, bills stacked higher, and slowly, hope started to fade. He began coming to this park often, watching people pass by, couples holding hands, children laughing, joggers with music in their ears. Everyone seemed to be moving forward while he stood still. He wondered if life had simply moved on without him. One morning, as he sat on that same bench, an elderly man with a walking stick sat down beside him. His clothes were simple, but his eyes were bright with life. "Beautiful day," the old man said. David forced a small smile. "Maybe for some people." The old man chuckled softly. "For everyone, if they know where to look." They sat in silence for a while, watching the leaves fall. Then the old man spoke again. "You look like someone carrying too much weight on your shoulders." David sighed. "Lost my job. Lost my confidence. Feels like I'm running in circles. I used to believe things would get better, but now, I don't even know where to start." The man nodded, tapping his cane gently on the ground. "You know, I used to come here for the same reason. I'd lost my wife, my home, and most of what I thought mattered. I sat on this very bench thinking life was over." David turned to him, surprised. "So what changed?" The old man smiled. "One day a little girl came up to me and handed me a small yellow flower. She said, 'This is for you because you look like you need sunshine.' That small act didn't fix my life, but it reminded me that I was still alive, still capable of receiving and giving something good." He looked up at the trees. "Life doesn't turn around in a day, son. But it turns around when you decide to take one small step forward, no matter how hopeless it feels." David thought about that as the man stood up to leave. "What's your name?" he asked. "Walter," the old man said with a grin. "I come here every morning. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow." And he did. The next day, and the one after that, David showed up. Sometimes they talked about life. Sometimes they just sat in silence. Over time, David noticed something shifting inside him. He began applying for jobs again, volunteering at a local shelter, even helping kids with their resumes. He wasn't doing it for money, he was doing it because it felt right. Months passed. One day, David arrived at the park to find the bench empty. Walter didn't come that day, nor the next. Finally, he asked around and learned that Walter had passed away peacefully in his sleep. David sat on the bench that day with tears in his eyes. On the ground beneath the bench was a small, folded note inside a plastic cover. It read, "For David, keep walking forward. Life always rewards the brave. Underneath the note was a small yellow flower. Years later, David owned a small company that helped people rebuild their careers after layoffs. On the first day of every new client program, he took them to the park, sat them on that same bench, and told them about an old man named Walter, who once taught him that even the smallest flower could bring back the sun. Whenever someone asked him why he started his company, David would smile and say, "Because one act of kindness saved me. Now it's my turn to pass it on." And every autumn, when the leaves turned golden, he still visited that bench, leaving behind a single yellow flower for the man who helped him believe again.